It was a mild afternoon in early autumn, the kind that reminds you of simpler times when coffee shops were places to linger and watch the world go by. Mark sat at an outdoor table at Starbucks, his white polo shirt tucked neatly into his jeans. He was in his mid-30s with short brown hair and a gentle expression that spoke of quiet strength. Beside him was his 5-year-old daughter Ava, her curly locks framing her innocent face as she wore a sweet polka-dot dress. She clutched a small Starbucks cup, sipping hot chocolate, her tiny hand resting in her father's. Mark had been a single dad for 2 years now, ever since his wife passed unexpectedly. Those days blended into one another, filled with school runs, bedtime stories, and the occasional moment of reflection on how life could change in an instant. Ava looked up at him, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Daddy, why do people come here?" she asked, her voice soft and full of wonder. Mark smiled, leaning down a bit. "Well, sweetie, it's a place to relax, meet friends, or just think about things. Like how grateful we are for each day." He paused, letting the words sink in, remembering his own parents saying similar things back in the 70s when family outings meant ice cream parlors and long talks about perseverance. Across the patio, Emily approached, balancing carefully on her crutch. She was a striking young woman in her late 20s with long blonde hair cascading over her shoulders and a deep red dress that hugged her figure. Her right leg ended just below the knee, a prosthetic sleeve visible, but she moved with a grace that came from years of adaptation. Emily had lost her leg in a car accident a decade ago during her college years. It had taught her resilience the hard way, reminding her of those old sayings about turning lemons into lemonade. She carried a tray with her coffee, scanning for an empty spot amid the bustling crowd. The tables were full, patrons chatting under the red umbrellas, the air filled with the aroma of fresh brews and faint laughter. Emily's eyes landed on Mark's table, where only 2 chairs were occupied. She hesitated for a moment, feeling that familiar twinge of self-doubt. Would they mind? Would he see her as an intrusion? But life had shown her that kindness often hid in unexpected places, like the neighbors who helped her recover or the friends who stuck by during tough times. "Can I share this table?" she asked, her voice warm yet tentative as she stood before them, her crutch steady on the pavement. Mark looked up, surprised, but his face softened immediately. Ava tilted her head, staring curiously but without judgment, the way children often do. Mark nodded, pulling out the empty chair. "Of course, please join us," he replied, his tone inviting and sincere. "I'm Mark and this is my daughter Ava." Emily smiled, relieved, as she set her tray down and eased into the seat. "Thank you, I'm Emily," she said, settling her crutch beside her. Ava watched Emily closely, her small fingers twisting the edge of her dress. "What happened to your leg?" she blurted out innocently, the question hanging in the air like a gentle breeze. Mark's eyes widened, ready to gently redirect, but Emily just chuckled softly, a sound full of understanding. "It's okay," she said to Mark before turning to Ava. "I had an accident a long time ago, sweetie. But I'm still me and I can do most things just fine. It makes me appreciate the little joys more, like a good cup of coffee on a day like this." Ava nodded thoughtfully, then offered her a sip of her hot chocolate. "Want some? It's yummy." Mark felt a warmth spread through him watching the exchange. He remembered his own childhood in the 60s when his father, a veteran, would share stories of overcoming hardships, teaching him that true strength came from within. As they chatted, Emily shared bits of her life, how she worked as a graphic designer, now finding beauty in creating art that inspired others. Mark opened up about raising Ava alone, the challenges of balancing work and fatherhood, but also the profound love that made it all worthwhile. "You know," he said after a quiet moment, "life's a lot like this coffee, sometimes bitter, but with a little sweetness it becomes something special." Emily nodded, her eyes meeting his. "I've learned that acceptance starts with ourselves, then it opens doors to connect with others. It's what gets us through the rough patches." The conversation flowed naturally, touching on nostalgic memories of vinyl records playing on Sunday afternoons or family picnics without cell phones distracting everyone. Ava listened wide-eyed, occasionally interjecting with questions that brought light laughter. There was a subtle tension at first, Mark wondering if Emily felt pitted, Emily sensing his careful kindness, but it dissolved into genuine ease, like old friends reuniting. As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue over the patio, Emily glanced at her watch. "I should get going, but this was lovely," she said, standing with her crutch. Mark rose too, helping steady her tray. "It was," he agreed. "Maybe we'll see you here again sometime." Ava waved enthusiastically. "Bye, Emily, come back soon." Emily waved back, her heart full. In that brief encounter they had all found a reminder that human connections could heal wounds, visible and invisible, bridging gaps with simple acts of openness. Days turned into weeks and Mark found himself returning to that Starbucks more often, Ava in tow, hoping for another chance meeting. One afternoon Emily was there again, this time at their usual table. "Can I share?" she asked with a playful smile. Always, Mark replied, pulling out the chair. Their talks deepened, sharing life wisdom passed down from generations. Emily spoke of her grandmother's advice from the 50s, embrace what you have and let go of what you can't change. Mark echoed with his own father's words, kindness costs nothing but builds everything. Ava grew fond of Emily, drawing pictures for her of families together, legs or no legs. The trio formed an unlikely bond, Mark finding solace in Emily's optimism, Emily discovering joy in Ava's innocence. There was a gentle romance budding between Mark and Emily, not rushed but natural like the changing seasons. One evening as they sat watching the stars emerge, Mark turned to Emily. You know that day you asked to share the table, it changed things for us. Emily placed her hand on his. For me too. It's a reminder that we're all a bit broken but together we can be whole. Years later, looking back, Mark would tell Ava, now a teenager, about that fateful afternoon. Life, he said, is about opening up to others even when it's scary. It's how we find acceptance and true connection. And so in the quiet moments of reflection, those in their 50s and 60s might recall similar encounters where a simple question led to profound bonds, echoing the timeless truth that humanity thrives on empathy and shared tables. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, subscribe and comment. Iski complete Banadu.